What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Full Tune YouTube channel. We're going to do the video at a little different pace today. We are here at the shop right now. You see the C5 behind me. We're going to kind of combine two things that definitely had a big impact on me and my business, which is LS engines and drifting. So my buddy Scott from Grip Royal, which you've heard me mention him before, he just recently picked up this C5. We looked at a couple before we found this very good one in town, didn't have to actually travel anywhere for it, so that worked out pretty well. So he's got a few mods he's gonna do to it to get it going. Now we're gonna just kind of go to his shop and let him go over that, and then we're gonna come back and tune this thing so we can get it ready to go drifting.
The reason we're making this video today is to kind of just discuss why and what is desirable in like a C5, C6 Corvette for the drifting community. I've had S13s and 88.6 Corollas over the last 15 years and spent a lot of time and a lot of money working on them, building them, and see the potential in the Corvette. Even though my desire's never been there, I wanted to get into this new chassis because I see so many other reputable drivers using it. So I picked up a C5 Corvette, and with the help of Forrest and his knowledge behind the platform, I've gone ahead and bought a bunch of parts with full intention of making a street but trackable drift car out of this C5 Corvette. So there's a lot of pros and a few cons that we've come across concerning the chassis, but for the most part, just kind of trying to explain why this is desirable. So coming from the S13 chassis into this, just immediately driving it on the street, the car's like super grippy. It feels really planted. It has a lot of low-end torque, really long power band. It just drives really, really well. On top of that, all of the creature comforts that come with the car from the factory, even though they're same era as like a S14, they're like a higher end from that era. And in my car specifically, they seem to all still function. So the reason I've built some really nice S13s in the past was to try and achieve that street car functionality, but I always fall short. So with this car, I've got cruise, I've got heat, AC, you know, the cruise control with manual is just a big plus. I really enjoy using that already. Apparently the diffs are really good, transmission strong, engine strong, everything feels really good in a factory spec configuration. So I'm really excited to start modding it and actually get it out on the track, which we hope to do Sunday under some light modification that we're doing tonight. But in 2 days, we should be practicing with the car and kind of shaking it down for its first session with drifting. So some of the pros or the benefits that I've already found in this stock configuration with the car is, as I mentioned before, it's super, super grippy. Even in wet conditions with the factory suspension, I've launched the car, dumped the clutch a few times, and it grips up like right away. That's really impressive to me, and I'm actually kind of thinking that it's almost too grippy for practice drifting like I'm doing, or like non-competitive drifting, where I'm just looking for easy driving car with longevity in the tires. So I'm hoping that the coilovers will actually kind of tighten the car up and prevent some of the grip, you know, too much grip, and give it a little easier like driftability. The car has so much power and torque from the factory that when you come from another drifting specific or drifting popular chassis in the drifting community, this car to me has so much torque in the low end that it makes the car really, really easy to drive. So if you're a first-time drifter or maybe new to driving a manual transmission car, I can see how having an LS or a Corvette, specifically a car that comes with that motor set, is very helpful with learning how to actually use the clutch and the driving styles that come with manual transmission. Of all the list of the pros that I've come up with, I only have a handful of cons. One, it seems like a lot of the plastics on the interior pieces are starting to get kind of brittle with age. My car specifically has a lot of rattling and loose paneling. I'm yet to get in there and start messing with it, but I just have to guess that it's something that's common given the age of these cars. The blind spot from the rear is kind of odd, just being that the driver position is really low. and the back glass is really curved. There is a lot of vision through the hatch and the coupe, but again, you know, if you're just trying to look at it as a good street car, kind of an odd blind spot when you're looking behind you. And then the other con that I came across was the pedals are this, they're really nice pedals that hang down, and they have like a metal foot piece on them, but they're very, very slippery in wet conditions. So when you get in the car on a rainy day and your shoes are real slippery, I found that the clutch pedal is really, really slick, and it's very easy for my foot to slide off. That's hopefully going to be a quick fix. In every drift car I've ever had, I just put grip tape from a skateboard on the face of each pedal to give a little grip. So we'll see if that helps. Okay, so what we have here is a factory front spindle. I just pulled this off of the car. It's your upper ball joint, lower ball joint goes in here, hub, tie rod. My buddy Nick Thomas sent me this modified version of a factory spindle, and as you can see, the tie rod location is much further inward. They actually chop this down and mill it flat and bore it for this specific bolt so that we can run this different outer tie rod, and it's going to put it a lot closer and give us a lot more angle when we turn based on that tie rod pickup. So this is like a traditional drift setup for the front spindle, modifying a factory spindle. Later on, we are going to end up using the FDF Mantis full kit, which will be a aftermarket lower control arm, an aftermarket upper control arm, outer tie rod, and the actual spindle itself is a completely aftermarket component. Immediately, just putting all of these side by side, we noticed that there's roll center adjustment or correction in the spindle itself. So they've actually moved where the hub mounts to the spindle is up. So this basically lowers the car without making any actual suspension adjustments. So you can see the tie rod mount is a lot lower than where the actual hub will mount compared to a factory setup. Well, compare it to an actual factory setup here. And you can see on the modified section, or the modified spindle, that the tie rod is actually going to be moved down as well and below this arm, just like the factory setup, just further inward. And that's that.
We're back at the shop. The install went well for the modifications they did to the suspension and everything. So now we just got to concentrate on getting this thing running right. It's got a few bolt-on modifications, which I'll go over in a second. Pretty common things you would do to a Corvette, so it should work out well. The whole idea of this car is simple. A lot of guys are building engine swaps in S chassis and BMWs and whatever. Well, this thing's already got it. No swap needed. The suspension's already good. It's a sports car from the factory. So that's the whole idea here, is simple and easy and just make it reliable. Yeah, so like I said, it's got some pretty simple modifications on here. Pretty common stuff that anyone with a LS1 would start their project with. It's got a set of long tube headers. Not 100% sure, but I think the previous owner said they were Billy Boat headers. It's got a cold air intake, and it does have, I noticed, an LS6 intake manifold, which is a pretty good upgrade on these engines. It's just a little bit better than the earlier LS1 style, so that should be worth a little extra power on it. Other than that, it does have a Borla exhaust, but it is stock. It's what we call stock around here. I mean, if you watch other videos on the channel, you know this might be the lowest horsepower car that's been on the channel. I don't know. We'll see. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna log the car as is. I'm not gonna change the tune or anything first, and we'll just see how close it is. The car is modified already, so Maybe someone tuned it before, but we'll see if we can improve on that at least. All right, so first run, looks like it made 323. It's a little lean. So now I'm just gonna read out the tune and just see what we're working with, see where we can improve. It's about what I expected. These things are usually a little bit lean when they're on kind of a stockish tune. So we'll see. All right, we got our air-fuel ratio where I want it now. Power didn't change as much as I thought, so that's okay. The main idea here was we just want to make sure it's safe to go on the track. So I'm gonna try a little more timing, see if it picks up just a little bit of power, and it'll probably be done. That'll be it. Barely a gain, so we're done. Okay, so that's pretty much gonna sum this part of the video up. We got it on the dyno, checked it out. It was a little bit lean, which is pretty common for having intake and exhaust modifications. Sometimes they're even leaner than this one was. This one was in the upper 13s air-fuel ratio range, so got that down to a more acceptable area. It didn't really change power that much. I was thinking maybe we'd pick up 10 horsepower or so, but we didn't get it. So we ended up at 326 horsepower and 326 foot-pounds of torque. And it's, nice flat torque, which is gonna be great because what Scott comes from driving is 4-cylinder turbo, SR20, engine setups where the power band sometimes is pretty narrow. So this is gonna be really good for him to just kind of experience something that's super easy to drive. I'm really interested to see how it's gonna be because I might get to hop in the seat as well. So I've never driven a Corvette in that manner. I've driven a lot of Corvettes before, but I've never drifted one, and definitely never drifted one with angle modification. So should be fun, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we got the dyno stuff all done. Angle kit is on, and we are now here at Memphis International Raceway. We rented out the parking lot. A few friends we got together just to have a day to shake down our cars, so that was a perfect time for Scott to bring out the Vette. The original plan, I was gonna drive the car a little bit today, but it actually eats tires a little bit faster than the cars he's used to driving, so ran out of tires before I could drive it, but the car did great, and I'm gonna show some clips of that, and maybe we can have Scott talk just a little bit about how he felt about driving the car.
So we got the C5 Corvette out here at MIR this weekend, and over the weekend we did some light modifications to it. We were able to put some stock modified front spindles on, or knuckles, whatever you want to call them. The tie rod pickup point was shortened, so that gave us more turning angle and quicker turning response. So that's the only modification on the car. We did some light maintenance, brought it to Forest Shop and did the dyno, but everything feels really solid. So the first thing that we did when we got here was take the car out, and I jammed it in second. It's a small lot, and threw the car sideways. Everything feels so good. The car is grippy, it's fast, it has enough torque through the whole RPM range that you can keep the car sliding even without like really beating on the car. So the first thing that I really noticed compared to the S chassis was that this, I'm really not beating on the drivetrain like at all. The car is effortless to drive or to drift. Really consistent, you know, through the, like I said, through the whole RPM range. So even as the RPMs come down, you can just kind of keep the accelerator down, give it a couple of feathers, and the car just keeps drifting. So the factory e-brake, not existent. It works for parking and parking only. After using it a couple times out there, I feel like it's not going to work at all. So definitely have to get the hydro e-brake on. We're going to go with a PBM inline and bypass all the ABS stuff. Other than that, I mean, this car is, I would say, just like the easiest out of the box car to drift. It feels great. You're low. The stock suspension that we still have on here, we still have the stock Leafs. They are smooth. The car doesn't feel like it has like a lot of body motion. Even in transitions, there's not a lot of like weight transfer in the body. It's real tight, real crisp, very predictable. I'm amazed. I'm blown away. You know, like I'm waiting on Fortunato coilovers to show up. I'm going to put them on. I'm sure that's going to improve the car, but I'm completely impressed and satisfied with how the factory suspension handles in a drifting scenario. So yeah, without the e-brake, I was able to use the foot brake and kind of dive the nose and force the rear of the car out to increase angle in transitions or doing like these big sweepers. But overall, that's all I got to say. The car in factory condition is a fully drift ready car. The only other modification we did after I left for his shop and did when he did the dyno on the car is that we went back to my shop and threw a basic fixed back bucket seat in, and I picked up some really low rails with sliders from, I think it was called like C6performance.com or something like that, some Corvette specific company. Never heard of them before, never bought anything, but great product. I threw this, it's like a Bride Vios 3 rep in there, but having a fixed bucket seat, keeping me stationary compared to the factory leather seats that just, you slip and slide all over them. They're super comfortable for just cruising around, but very slippery. So bucket seat, plan to do hydraulic e-brake, and modify the knuckles for increased steering angle, and that's pretty much it. Highly recommend it if you are tired of beating on your S chassis and constantly breaking stuff and replacing stuff. I mean, I'm just early in on the C5, but I just have to say, out of the gate, it seems like a really good drift car. Very satisfied. The only other thing that I noticed was using the modified factory front spindles and adding that turning radius. I see a lot of guys have to put spacers on their front wheels. We're running a 18 by 9.5 plus 38 Kansei Roku wheel, and it looks like we are at full lock. The inside of the wheel is rubbing on the lower control arm, which is aluminum, so it's going to eat through it really fast, and we could break it in half if we keep doing it that way. So at the moment, the car has no front spacers on it, and we plan to put that on and see if that gives us the clearance that we need, but that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to go this route, and to be aware and conscious of before you get out on the track and really just tear through those control arms. Overall, I would just have to say, if you're coming from an S chassis or an older drift specific chassis, the C5 seems really satisfying. Out of the box, it just seems like an overall good drift car. Very minimal mods need to be done to it. Of course, you're going to want to go far. You're going to want to keep doing more, but that happens with every drift car. I mean, the more you progress as a driver, the more the car has to progress simultaneously. And you're just, the demands that you put it through and the expectations of those demands are going to increase as your skill level increases. But if you're just trying to enjoy a car and have a street car that's ready to drift, and fun to drive on the street, fun to drive on the track, so far after day one or track day one, C5 Corvette seems to be like a really, really good out of the box car. So I definitely recommend it, and hopefully we get many, many more opportunities to experience the car and try and push it through some more limits too. But for right now, that's it. We're gonna load up and get out of here, leave MIR, and get back home, unload these cars, and I don't know what else to say.
Good.
We'll see you back at full tune.
Perfect.